Musical Talk, the UK independent musical theatre podcast.
Welcome to this week's episode of Musical Talk. Welcoming back a voice from the past, Dominic McChesney. Hello.
Hello, hi.
How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
We went randomly to see a show that I've never seen before, and I've never seen the film of it before. I knew a couple of songs. If I were a rich man, I would have seen it a lot more times. Possibly.
Ah, very nice. I like the way that you've... that was very subtle.
Thank you. Fiddler on the Roof, playing in the West End at the Playhouse Theatre from the Menier Chocolate Factory production,
yes.
Directed by Lord Sir Trevor Nunn.
Yes.
Tell me about your background with the piece. You know it more than I do, which isn't difficult.
Well, I knew the film from when I was a child watching it. I just realised it's on your DVD collection. Does anyone have a DVD collection? It is up there, isn't it? I have seen it.
Got nothing to play it on though.
So I knew it from being a child because it was one of those films that whenever it came on, my mum made us watch.
Was it on every Christmas and things? Was it?
I can't remember. I think it was more of an Easter film. Really?
Yeah.
Maybe a Hanukkah film.
Or Sabbath.
So, Sabbath every... but so I knew it, and I also knew If I Were a Rich Man, which, strangely enough, appeared in a game on the Spectrum, ZX Spectrum, when I was a teenager. Okay. It was in a very famous game called Jet Set Willy.
Right.
But I knew that, and I'd also sung Miracle of Miracles when I was training singing.
And there are more songs in it than I thought I knew, if that makes sense.
There were more songs in it that you knew, or that you...
There were more songs in it that I knew that I didn't realise were from the piece. Like, what's the big one they sing at the wedding?
Sunrise, Sunset.
No, the other one, the party.
To Life?
Yes.
Okay.
I didn't know that was from Fiddler on the Roof.
Oh, right, okay.
And as the star of the show, Andy Nyman, said to me, "You've been doing a musical theatre podcast, you've never seen Fiddler on the Roof."
I like the name drop there.
Yes.
Your friend Andy Nyman.
Yes. Playing Tevye.
He's playing Tevye fantastically. And
it's a hard role, isn't it?
It's enormous. It is crazy huge, and it's such an emotional roller coaster of a role as well. So, and I last saw it at the Palladium in the 90s. I can't remember, probably about 94, 5, and it had and Topol was playing Tevye, and Topol, of course, did it in the film, and then it became his role, and he toured the world in it. So, and this was meant to be his last production. I don't know if it actually was, but we all went to see him in that, and he was very good. But he knew the role so much. It felt like this is Topol, not Andy Nyman, but it felt that he was slightly bored with it.
Do you feel like
it's still fantastic, and I'm so glad I saw him, but it did, yes.
Would be a bit like that with Ron Moody and Fagin, had he carried on playing that role.
Possibly. So, and famously with, although I don't think I didn't see him, but he didn't, I'm not sure that I don't know how he was with the role, but Richard Kiley, who played the original Cervantes, Don Quixote and Man La Mancha, he played the role for many, many years and made it his own. Annoyingly, I had the chance to go and see him do it in Boston in the 80s, and I didn't really know him or the piece properly. So,
speaking of that Man of La Mancha, it has just opened.
It has,
in
yes.
London. Are you keen to go and see that?
I am, actually. It's a show that I know the cast recording. I know the film. I've never seen it on stage. It's a wonderful musical. There's some fantastic songs in it. I read some review, something about people saying it's terrible parts for women and all the rest of it. And it's only got 3 female parts in it, and yes, there's not many roles in it for women. But I think arguing about that is it's a bit silly, because it is a period piece, and it is, if you
is Fiddler.
Let's not get into that conversation. Fiddler is a period piece, and now how old is it? It's 62, 72, 82, 92.
Dom's doing maths.
Yeah, I'm doing maths. 60 years, 60 something years.
Yeah.
So, incredible to think that it is 60-something years old, because it still feels beautifully fresh.
And a couple of things I want to mention about this production, specifically at the Playhouse compared to the Menier production. I like the set.
The set is beautiful.
Yes, and it doesn't do very much.
Why do you like the set, Nicholas
well,
Hudson?
it wraps around into the audience, and we were sat in the dress circle, so we didn't see the kind of gangway or runway they have coming off, jetting off the stage into the stalls.
Yes.
But they made use of that. They made use of that a lot for entrances and exits. Most effectively at the very end, when it was a reasonably large cast. I'd say probably about 20. Would you say?
Yes, 20-something. Yes, it's a very big cast.
The way they do the, I would say, finale, the end section of Fiddler on the Roof, is they're all marching off, leaving their village.
Yes,
and they march off down through the stalls, and then they come back on stage again.
There's just hundreds of it. Feels like there's this, which is so effective.
And it's lit so you can't see them. They just look like shadows.
And they've got different. They change their costumes slightly, but it's so effective and so moving, because it shows that this evacuation, or not the evacuation, but the being driven out of their homes. I mean, and in the London production I saw, they had a turntable, and they had the wagon on the turntable, and everyone was on it, walking, and it's quite a strange show to not end on a number. It ends almost quite low key, but it's so beautiful, and beautiful is the wrong word, because it's moving. Yes.
Well, this production, we have a violinist, and he is the last person to leave the crowd of people, and he's playing the famous
theme.
Yeah. Da 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 da, and or something like that. And
there's nothing like that.
It's after notes I'm after.
Yeah. Okay.
But he never finishes the phrase.
Yes.
He ends on the second degree of the scale as opposed to the
yes. I don't.
The keynote.
I can't remember if that is in the score.
But it was
whether
incredibly effective.
Very, very effective. Yes.
Because I can't think of a reason why it worked, but it just kind of made you feel really on edge.
Yes.
The bit I struggled with, having never seen Fiddler on the Roof before, is the five daughters. It was hard sometimes telling which one was which, because they all had the same length of hair, and they all had the same dress, and they all sang the same.
Or similar.
Yes. And they all sung in American accents, even though they were speaking in kind of Russian, kind of British, kind of American accents. Yes.
I didn't really have that problem.
But you're aware of the characters? Or did you still...
Yes, but I know what you mean, but facially they were different enough for me to... Maybe you don't. Do you have that thing where you can't recognise people's
No,
voice?
I don't. Rachel does, though.
Really?
And maybe I'm just a stupid person.
Sorry, no, I shouldn't. I apologise, Nick. I didn't mean to say. No, I didn't have that, but maybe because I do know the girls. But it's difficult because everybody does look very similar, because they're all wearing the same colours. Beards. And so I do understand where you're coming from. They've all got beards, so it is.
That's just the women.
So yeah. So I do understand where you're coming from, and it can be a little bit difficult, because also with such a big cast as well, there is, that thing of who's talking about who.
We kind of had a legend on stage though for you, didn't we?
We did. Judy Kuhn, fantastic. I mean, I was always she was over here. She did Metropolis in the 90s.
What's that?
Metropolis was a musical of the Fritz Lang movie.
Okay.
And Brian Blessed was in it. It is sci-fi, but it's kind of old-fashioned sci-fi. So the original film is black and white, and
is it steampunk?
It is kind of steampunky, and the set was very famous because they had this huge machine and all these working cogs. It was very famous for breaking down.
Was that the Dominion?
It was at the Piccadilly, I believe. Don't quote me on that. I have heard the cast recording, and it's not. I didn't particularly like it. I didn't see it, and I'm kind of annoyed. I did have, but I know Brian Blessed had this song, "The Machines Are Beautiful," and Judy Kuhn had the what I remember being when I heard it, the song that was fantastic, which was "Let the World Go to the Devil," I think, which was a really amazing, rousing number. Anyway, she is back here doing Fiddler on the Roof. I'm not sure if she's been here before,
but she's done the role before, back in 2006.
Oh right, okay, yes.
And she's also linked to the other musical, which is sort of linked to.
She
Fiddler on the
is.
Roof.
She's linked to the
unofficial sequel.
The unofficial sequel, Rags, written by Charles Strauss and
Stephen Schwartz.
Oh, is it Stephen Schwartz? And that is the next section of the story, as it were,
where she sung "Children of the Wind," not to be confused with "Colours of the Wind," which she also sung.
Yes,
Pocahontas.
Yes, indeed. But yes, it was wonderful to see her on stage, and she and Andy Nyman have a wonderful chemistry. I mean, when they sing "Do You Love Me," I was like, oh, it's just so beautiful.
And Louise Gold as well.
Louise Gold, English stage legend.
Yes.
Louise Gold, who I remember seeing many years ago in Nonsense playing Sister Mary Amnesia and falling in love with her performance. I also saw her play Miss Andrew in
She's done Muppets as well.
She was in the Muppets, yes, she did the Muppets.
I last saw her, I believe, in the Menier production of Pippin.
Oh really? You saw that? So
it's a very, very good cast.
It's a wonderful cast.
Andy Nyman, you can actually hear on my other podcast, my theme park podcast.
Yes.
Most famous in this country for collaborating with Derren Brown, but you probably would have seen him in Assassins, also at the Menier Chocolate Factory. And he did a very famous film called Ghost Stories and the play of Ghost Stories. So he's
currently playing at the
Lyric Hammersmith, yes. Good singer.
Very good, wonderful, beautiful voice. Really, really lovely and rich. And
because when I told you he'd done Javol's, whatever his name is, in Assassins,
Guiteau.
Yeah, Guiteau, that one. He said that's really high part.
Yes, and I it's got a very high. I think it's got an A. I'm not sure. It's a wonderful role, but I can see him playing Guiteau now. Well, if you said that he plays the one, yes, you checked it in, yes. But he was wonderful, and the whole cast were. And we saw a matinee performance, and it was. I mean, you, as one should expect, you don't expect to see a matinee performance of heartedness and half-heartedness.
You might expect
but you often
the cast to be off, and you might.
Well, and you often see that in the West End, sadly, and there was not a hint of that. I mean, everyone was just wonderful. I think we should just also mention the three daughters. Well, there's 5 daughters, but the three main ones. All have their moment, which is just really moving, and Far From the Home I Love is beautiful, and the suitors as well. The 3 guys who play the 3 love interests were wonderful. They had fantastic voices.
But I said to you in the interval, it's so nice to have a show where the lyrics rhyme and it's beautifully structured, and that all the songs are glorious. You don't mind the songs being there. It moved. I mean, Dom did warn me at the beginning. It might feel a bit long, but it didn't. It absolutely just. But maybe that was Trevor Nunn's direction.
It's one of those shows though that if it's done badly, it can feel like it goes on forever.
It'll still be there in that one, probably.
Yes. But it didn't feel like that at all. And it is. I mean, the film feels very long when you watch it, but it still moves on.
Was there new material written for the film?
No, but they did eliminate the gossip song. So the gossip song isn't in which is kind of understandable because it's a bit of a strange odd song.
Now, the kind of letdown for you in the show was a great moment in the film. Probably hard to do on stage, but I was happy with the moment that we had in the film with the nightmare sequence, because we did have an illusion by Paul Keeve,
yes,
which was a floating spirit, which was quite fun. You were expecting Harry Potter Dementors flying around the theatre and things.
No, I wasn't. It's just that to Life was they did such a big number with everyone on stage that I got quite excited, and I thought when Tevye's Dream's going to happen, they're going to bring everyone on for that, and it just had about 6 people in nightshirts, and they had a guy playing on
the
grandmother Seitel.
I couldn't work out who was singing the part, though.
No, I couldn't work out whether it was him or someone in a booth off stage, or whether he was covering. Maybe someone was ill and they couldn't play it.
Because Nyman Tevye was mouthing what the character was saying, so I don't know if it was Tevye singing or if it was the man playing the woman singing.
I don't know.
Or if it was a pre-record.
I don't know, but for me it didn't. That section, that was the only section for me that didn't hit home, because that section, out of everything I remember watching as a film, terrified me. It was very scary because everyone's ghosts and it's set in a graveyard. And Brumasera, who is played in the film by a young Ruth Maddock. Do you know who Ruth Maddock?
Who?
Ruth Maddock. She is an English actress. She did many musicals. She was in a program called Heidi High.
Okay.
And
with Sue Pollard.
And Sue Pollard. She was in the original cast of the musical Something's Afoot, which is... And then there were None, the musical.
Okay, not Sherlock Holmes musical.
Not Sherlock Holmes the musical. Even though there are 2 Sherlock Holmes musicals. But she plays Frumasera in the film.
It's taken Dom 16 minutes to get onto Murder Mysteries.
Murder Mystery musicals.
Yes.
So in the films, and I didn't recognise her in the film, but then when I watched it quite recently, in the last couple of years, I suddenly was like, oh my God, that's Ruth Maddock. But that moment in the film is so scary, especially for a child. I remember it really terrifying me. And in the productions I've seen, they've brought on a whole cast and they're all acting as these decrepit ghosts. So it didn't quite have the impact. And I also think it's got to... It's one of those key moments, because it's when Tevye is telling this lie in order to make Golda change her mind and to make everything okay. And it just didn't pull the punch for me. And the effect of Frumasera kind of flying in the air was clever, but to me it looked a little bit awkward. But and what I'm saying is very petty. But that's just me. I also didn't realise they were wearing different coloured night shirts. I said to you, I was like, and this sounds awful, but I said, they look like they're dressed as... You're holding the microphone closer just to get it on record. It looked a little bit like they were dressed as surgeons.
Okay.
But I mean, that's terrible. That's everyone's who's seen the show is going to go, what's he saying? He's completely nuts and
I
mad.
didn't get that. I just got multicoloured night shirts.
Yes. Oh, yes, no. And
but I am
being silly.
The fiddler at the end was wearing, so I don't know really what the kind of very luminous...
Yes, that was a little bit odd.
Maybe the fiddler is a dream in his head.
It could be. I didn't quite get that. I mean, you said in the interval, is the fiddler also meant to be God? And
yeah, well, I say that because he was always talking to the god up in the sky, and I thought, is that a fiddler on the roof? Is God the person changing all these situations for everyone? Because starts off with the heaviest of tradition, and it's about how women's place in society changes and things like that, which is very...
Well, it's the break of all the traditions.
And eventually them having to move away from their scenario. And I just wondered if God was the fiddler on the roof.
Now you've said it, because
being someone who's
interfering sort of
and the literal...
Do you know? Because at the interval you said that, and I was like, no. But the more you've said it,
an actual fiddler.
But now you've said it, it does absolutely make sense, and I think I'm probably the stupid one.
Yes.
But yes, that does make sense. I didn't quite get why he was so brightly coloured. It was effective. But it didn't... Yeah, it didn't quite... I don't quite get that.
Ask.
Yes.
We spoke to Andy Nyman after the show, and he told us that when the show opened originally in the 60s, there were people in the audience in New York who would have experienced this.
Yes, or would have been, at least one generation. And
Yeah.
I had a friend who was in the original London production, and her grandparents or parents were directly, and she remember her saying to me when I did Fiddler on the Roof, it was harrowing. And I at the time I was thinking, well, I know it's kind of a sad show, but how can it be harrowing? And then, of course, now I realise as I'm older, it's harrowing because her family had actually been the people who'd gone through that. So it had...
The ending reminded me of The Sound of Music a bit.
Well,
when they all left due to the...
Okay, yes.
Yeah, no.
But, yes.
What is it about the piece that makes it still run in the West End?
Because it's so brilliantly written. Bock and Harnick. I think Sheldon Harnick is he is my favourite lyricist out of all the lyricists. I think
they weren't show-offy.
No, but he's still alive. He's 90, he's still working. I think the man was absolute genius because his lyrics are so easy on the ear and they're so funny and clear and they rhyme perfectly. And I'm always going on about this, but when you get perfect rhymes, you don't have to struggle or think. No. And so they go into your head and they make sense immediately. And when lyrics scan properly with the music and they don't change every verse because you want to put an extra syllable in, the man was...
As it should be.
Well, yes, exactly. But, things evolve and change, and I understand that, and I accept that things have to change. But I still maintain that this is why a lot of these shows do still work, because they're so wonderfully written, and the book is so strong here, and
the opening number.
And the opening
Can
number.
we just talk about that?
What tradition?
We were this morning. We were discussing opening numbers, and there is an episode in this somewhere.
This may be it because I think there's only a few examples.
Well, no, I think there's a lot more to say, but
yeah,
tradition. I was looking at lists online, and every list was saying tradition is the number one opening number. Because it does so much, but it also does it in a very, very short amount of time. You have other brilliant opening numbers like Ragtime, but that goes on for 9 minutes. Into the Woods goes on for about 75 minutes, the opening number. But this one does so much so quickly.
Yes, and it introduces not only all the characters and the roles that they're going to play in the story, but it also introduces all the main theme and everything that is going to be broken. So it's everything that's going to change. So they're talking about the tradition, and that's what the show's about. It's about tradition breaking. Even though those traditions still exist today within the Jewish community.
But there's some very odd traditions, like marrying, getting, the father choosing who the 15...
the matchmaker.
Yeah, the matchmaker, but the father approving the marriage of this 15-year-old to what could be a very, very, very old man.
Yes, it's just, I think... You have to think of the period that it's set, and it's no good going up in arms about... Not that you are, but it's no good going up in arms and saying, oh, well, it's paedophilic or whatever. It is of the time. You have to remember that not only within faiths that had arranged marriages, it was very normal for hundreds of years for people to marry outside age brackets, that people were considered adults at a much younger age. I'm not condoning anything, and it is obviously nowadays when we hear stories of arranged marriages between young girls and old men, it's anathema. It's because we just go, no, that's just wrong. However, you mustn't judge Fiddler on the Roof or any story that is set in the period by today, and that's the danger. And I think that's what we won't go into other things, but I think that's the one of the biggest dangers when we look at theatre and we talk about
it's bad because it's
storylines or casting or saying, well, that's bad because those, you have to accept a period. If it's set in a period, you have to accept the you can't judge it by the modern day.
It was also a lot funnier than I thought it was going to be.
It is very funny, and it's weird because I found I was welling up with tears nearly every single song, either with happiness or sadness, either being moved.
And it moves
emotionally.
so quickly that
Yes.
the emotions.
Yes.
There'll be a great song and dance, and then the Russians will come on and destroy the set.
Yes, and then you'll be very moved by that as well, and it is a brilliant piece. I think it's a wonderful, wonderful show. I wish we saw more Bock-and-Harnick musicals. We had The Rothschilds last year, of course, which was wonderful to have here, and I thought I'd never see it in my own lifetime. So that's a bit of a little pun there for people who know The Rothschilds. Not a pun, a little joke.
All 4 people, then.
A little joke. Thos saw it. Thos and I.
That'll be all 2 people.
And of course, then there's She Loves Me, which I think is very possibly the nearest you can get to a perfect musical. I think She Loves Me is superb. I think it's a wonderful show. I think the songs are wonderful, the melodies, the lyrics.
It's Greatest Showman, is it?
I'm leaving a pause there, listener. But there's other shows that we never see. We had they wrote Fiorello, which is about Fiorello LaGuardia, which has just been done by the 42nd Street Moon Theatre in San Francisco, where I saw Nick and Nora and Sail Away, and that's hardly ever done. That was those regular listeners may remember. I talked to my very first time on Musical Talk was I interviewed Ron Husman, who was in the original cast of Fiorello and then went on to play the lead in another Bock-and-Harnick show called Tenderloin, which we've never seen here, and Tenderloin is a fantastic score. As well as that, they have the Apple Tree, which is like a vignette show. It's got 3 very beautiful, strong stories, and I don't ever. I've never known that to be put on here, and it's a wonderful show. It's a 3-hander, really.
But they must just have, lived off Fiddler on the Roof, probably.
Well, I think Fiddler on the Roof is definitely their big. Yes, it is their big show, but I think
But do you think their other stuff is better than Fiddler on the Roof? She Loves Me, for example.
It's difficult as the personal preference. I prefer She Loves Me, but
more
I think
comedy or something.
It appeals to me a little bit more, and I like the structure of the show. I love Fiddler on the Roof. I think it's a wonderful show. However, it's not a show I would go back to many times. When She Loves Me was on in London,
were there every night.
I saw it about 6 times, and I dragged people to see it. I said, you have to see the show, and I went.
Did they like it?
They loved it. Everyone I talked loved it. But I wish we could have a production of Fiorello or Tenderloin. I do. Cast albums are available, ladies and gentlemen, on iTunes and Spotify, I believe, and the Apple Tree, of course, and the Apple Tree.
And Apple Music.
Sorry?
And Apple Music.
And Apple Music. But for me, Sheldon Harnick can do no wrong with his lyric writing. If you can, I don't know if you can. I think it was on eMusic, but there was a.
That's a record label for those younger listeners.
Is it a record? It's a record label.
eMusic. No, I'm thinking of EMI.
No, it's eMusic is a downloadable site. I'm teaching you about computery things. I don't know if it still exists, but there is an album called Lyrics and Lyricists, which was a live recordings with famous lyricists talking about their work and singing songs. And they have Alan J. Lerner and Dorothy Fields, and one of them is Sheldon Harnick, and it's called An Evening with Sheldon Harnick. And if you can get hold of it, it is brilliant. I mean, absolutely. He sings his songs. One of the songs he sings is a song they cut from Fiddler on the Roof called When Messiah Comes. And they originally had it, I think, probably before Anatevka. So maybe Anatevka was a final number at that point. But when they turn around at the end and they say...
It's a beautiful song.
It is a gorgeous song. But they turn around to the rabbi and they say, wouldn't this be a perfect time for the Messiah to come? And then Tevye sings a song called When Messiah Comes. And he talks about it, and he said that when they originally, because they had it in the original production, and it just sat wrong and people became uncomfortable.
Was it comedy or too sad? Or
It's bittersweet comedy. And I haven't listened to it in a long time, and I need to listen to it again. But it's a very interesting song, and but I would recommend people hunt that down, because it is a fascinating song. But I can see, because when that moment happened when watching the show, I suddenly went, that's when they would have done When Messiah Comes, and I thought, oh yes, I see what you mean. It would have sat wrong at that point.
Well, Fiddler on the Roof is playing at the Playhouse Theatre, and Dom, thank you very much for joining me with that. I've got a...
Do go and see it. It is brilliant.
It's lovely, lovely. I've got a break from episodes, so you got Thos for a couple of weeks, and Dom, I'm sure you got an episode coming up as well. Tell us about that.
Yes, I have a very fascinating interview with a chap called Stephen Bull, who has written a concept album which is going to be a musical called Nebula Tuesday, and it's all set in the Scottish Islands, and it's a little bit mystical. Some wonderful songs in it. That was a lovely interview with a fascinating chap and a really nice chap, and I'm very excited to hear what happens with that. But yes, I'll be bringing that very soon.
We'll look out for that soon. Dom, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, as always.
See you next week. Bye-bye. For more information about Musical Talk, please visit our website at musicaltalk.co.uk. You can email us at feedback@musicaltalk.co.uk. Listen to past episodes on iTunes and YouTube, and follow our social media channels on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Bye. Bye.